All right, and here we are. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and we are back. All right. We are back. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. It is a chilly and rainy day here in Dallas, but it is the year 2024, and this is our first recording of the year, and I'm super excited about our guest, Dallas Cothrum. I've been excited about having you on today, Dallas.
Well, I'm sure I'll underperform.
I doubt it. You're always a great performer, even when you're not even trying. So, Dallas, we're going to try and get this right just to let everybody know, but I'm sure everybody already knows who you are. You're the biggest celebrity we've had on the show.
Doubt it.
But Dallas, you're the president of Masterplan,
yes.
which you founded.
My dad started
Your dad started it.
Maybe perfected it.
Right. And now y'all, you can tell us a little more, but y'all had a buyout and you're still running the company, correct? Yep. And it's the largest planning and permitting firm in Texas.
Yes.
And then some other interesting accolades. I'm reading this from your bio on the Dallas Morning News because I like it. But you're a member of the Tyler Basketball Officials Hall of Fame.
And the State Basketball Officials Hall of Fame.
Is that the Texas Association of Sports
Yes.
Officials Hall
Yep.
of Honor?
Yep.
And you're a contributing columnist to the Dallas Morning News. Are we missing any other biographical items there we need to
that's
list?
About it.
That's good. That's a good bio. So, well, I don't know where to start, but there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about.
All right, let's do it.
Your column is really, really cool. I've read a few of those. But let's start with your name, Dallas. Are you named after the city of Dallas?
Yeah,
You're a big Dallas guy.
No, my dad was a Dallas council member from 65 to 80 before starting Masterplan, and at the time was a big fan of the city, and it was an election year, the year I was born, so I'm Dallas. In college, I was Dallas from Dallas.
Dallas.
It's great for SEO. If you type in Dallas and zoning, I've got a pretty good chance to come up.
I like that. It reminds me of Forrest Gump where he's saying, in Tex, well, I don't know where Tex is from. So your dad was a city council member in 1965
for many years,
80.
the longest serving council member until Sandy Grayson and Steve Salazar and some others and Tanell Atkins have passed that.
Yeah.
But for a long time, he's still the youngest person ever elected at 25.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing.
65, so yeah.
And the city council was a well-oiled machine back then like it is today?
In a previous era, they let the city manager run it, and they were not full-time politicians, and things were different in that era. Dallas was obviously smaller, too.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't as equitable a place, but it was very business-friendly and very Texan. And I think, one of the things I write about, talk about, and if you're my friend, you got to listen to me opine on over margaritas is, I'm very concerned that Dallas and Austin and Houston have seceded from the state of Texas largely and are now, the same kind of
city states of the state of Texas.
They're Bed Bath and Beyond, and like the old school. Oh, we're gonna have a pretty nice day. We're gonna go out and visit those places. I mean, and so I think those are cities that all have a lot of people not from here, with ideas that are not from here. And we'll see where it gets us, because I think that Texas is its own country.
Yeah,
it's got the 8th largest gross national product in the world, more than Mexico and Canada. And lest we not be mindful of our past, we might not have the kind of success we have.
Bright future.
So, I think this is a special business place that's fueled by Texas independence, and you're part of that now. It's an attractor to people. They want to be here.
I love the people that move into Texas, been here for a while, and then they kind of want to take that Texan thing, and I think that's what we really want at the end of the day, people to buy in on what we've got going on here. But it's funny what you mentioned.
People don't move into Texas, it moves into you.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are doing it right.
I agree. It's interesting what you said about Dallas, Houston, and Austin, because it wasn't too long ago, if you ran into somebody you hadn't met before, there's a good chance they're from here.
Yeah, and
that's
now
not the case anymore.
Not at all. In fact, I usually operate from a perspective of they're not from here.
Yeah.
I mean, when that's business, and and I think you find that there are people moving here and moving their business here, and are often not aware of they're moving to a different nation. And I mean, even now that I sold to Millrose, which is based in New York, great guys, and in many ways, it's been a good match. These big Italian personalities are not that different than Texans, and if I had it to do again, I would. So it's been good, but there definitely have been challenges that are just as simple as, well, why can't my sales guy in Dallas also cover Austin?
Right.
I mean, they're just the sheer size of it, and there are distinct cultural differences between Texas and the other, states and the other 9 companies that they have also acquired. They're just, when people move here, they should embrace, and I've done some consulting on that about what is Texas and how is it going to be different here. They move here because they want less business interference, good taxes, all those sorts of things. More opportunity, but it is a different place.
It is. It's interesting. I'm born, raised here. I lived for a little bit of time in Southern California, but what always...
We're glad you're back.
What's that?
We're glad you're back.
Glad I'm back too. It was other than the humidity, it was really awesome to be back here full time. But one thing that I always catch myself is, and I don't think people realize this about Texas, and you mentioned it with like, well, why can't my guy in Dallas do Austin? Like, Dallas and Austin are farther apart than most of the cities in the Northeast.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy to, the Northeast cities are so close together, and you can get to them pretty simply. Here, it's 4 or 5 hours to go to any of our other major metros in Texas, and so
And there are 200 cities now in the Metroplex, just in DFW. This is a different place. I mean, there are 8 million people here. I mean, the Dallas-Fort Worth region is larger than all the states that touch Texas around it combined.
Isn't that something?
It really is something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma's making a pretty good push. They're really starting to.
And if you look at the census numbers, which I have,
I've actually seen some Texas people going to Oklahoma
because they're growing.
Because they're like, this isn't Texas
anymore. And it's
anymore.
a lot of people, younger people, professional people with families, that their $100,000 to $200,000 joint income goes a lot further in Oklahoma
or something,
or Oklahoma City or Edmond or someplace. It goes a lot further. So I think you will continue to see. I mean, as
property
a company,
taxes are better there too.
As a company, we're looking at like really trying to conquer that I-35 corridor. Get open in Oklahoma City and get open in San Antonio as well. Because that's where most of the population is right there.
Yeah. Well, so since for the listeners that don't know and opening business in those markets, tell us a little bit about Masterplan. Your dad started it after he got out of the council.
Yep.
So was that, to me, I'm inferring that he was like, what, business, real estate folks, they could use some help when dealing with the city for their real estate needs or growth or whatever. Is that kind of how
that's
that
right.
started?
I mean, he was on those councils that I think people thought were crazy, that they built DFW Airport, which was, out in the middle of nowhere, and it's too far north, and now it's kind of in the middle of the Metroplex. I think, that was a genius move. They built all those lakes. So the councils in Dallas and Fort Worth in the 60s and 70s did some really remarkable things that have allowed for all this population growth. But he realized Dallas is growing. A lot of people are moving here. He had been very involved in both moving the Rangers here from Washington.
Really?
Yeah.
Your dad was I guess he's working the city. All right.
Yeah, he represents. And then
did they go to Arlington at that time?
Yeah, they moved straight from here.
Straight
yeah,
from
yeah. He met
Arlington
with
had to have been like
baseball commissioner Bowie Kuhn and Mayor Vandergriff in Arlington, and so that was an exciting time. And then worked hard with the Hunts to build Reunion, and one time it looked like we were going to get the Buffalo Braves, who had the great Bob McAdoo as a player.
Did they go from Buffalo?
Now.
Oh, okay. That was a basketball team.
Basketball team, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and so that's how we ended up getting a expansion team, the Mavericks. But for a long time, the thought was that we're going to acquire one of the other teams, like the Kansas City Kings or one of the other teams in the late 70s that were struggling.
Kings. Did
my dad
they go to Sacramento? I didn't know that.
My dad had been one of the owners of the Chaparrals, the ABA team here.
Oh, no wonder you want to name our networking group the Chaparrals.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
I like that name.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
is that a Roadrunner?
What's that?
Chaparral Roadrunner?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think, as I recall, they picked that name because one of the downtown hotel rooms, the ballrooms or whatever, is called the Chaparral, maybe the Statler or something. That's how they came up with the name. But he had been something of a basketball pioneer, and I can remember as a kid in the 70s, after they had moved to San Antonio, we'd go down to San Antonio to see NBA games when nobody saw NBA games. So, I ended up playing college basketball, and I'm definitely a hoop guy.
Yeah.
I love basketball. We're getting close to March Madness. That's probably my favorite time of the year.
Do you stay in town, or do you go up to Vegas for that?
I stay here usually. Okay. Sometimes I've had party. I love that Thursday and Friday, the first day of the tournament.
The upsets happen.
Wall to wall, just basketball.
That's fine.
And I won't pick a tournament. I root for good basketball.
Okay, so you don't put a bracket
No,
together.
I won't do a bracket because I might end up.
You'd probably never be able to finish it.
I might not. Now, I am going to do a bracket. This is fun. I'm doing a bracket with the Dallas Morning News where readers are going to be able to vote. Oh. And we're going to have a 64-team bracket. And we're going to pit like area code 214 versus the French Room. And you have to figure out, to you, which one's more Dallas. And so Roger Staubach might face off against Katy Trail Ice House in a tournament game.
Oh, really?
You got to vote for one. So we're going to pick a winner at the end.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
I think.
How do people find out more about that? Just go to the website?
Yeah, we'll publish. The Morning News will publish some things in advance of it. But if you're nice, I'm going to have a bracketing party where we seed all the teams.
Oh,
so come. We'll have a good time.
I want to come. Yeah, that sounds like fun. It's crazy. March is like it's right around the corner.
It's here.
What the heck? Yeah. So so master plan. Your dad started it.
So we fight City Hall. That's sort of what we do. We've got some kind of defined service areas. Obviously, we do a lot of land use and zoning, from due diligence to zoning cases, Board of Adjustment. That is still 2/3 of our work across the state. Now that we're part of a national company, we did zoning cases in 12 states. And what we found out is if you can do a case in Dallas City Hall, you can work anywhere because you've got a lot of minefields there.
Yeah.
So that's been nice. We did things last year in Orlando and Miami and Charlotte and Nashville. We're capable of working anywhere. I've got 10 people just in my Dallas office that have been planning directors in various cities. So we got a great staff. We also do permit expediting, which is more than just making it go fast. It's working with the rest of your professional team to manage the project and make sure you're not over-submitting. That's one of the things that really hurts people is they give the city too many plans to review. So we kind of send it through what we say our car wash. Right. And we pull out and relabel and repackage it for the city so that it's easier for the city to use. Right. Think of like your 7th grade English teacher. It couldn't be stapled. It had to be paper clipped or whatever. Right. Knowing those nuances at these cities, and most of my employees are former city people, so they understand how cities work. And then we've got a TABC licensing group, and then we work on just straight lobbying assignments. Those are kind of our categories.
So you kind of answered the question there, but people hire you because it sounds like it's like a full-time job to manage what you got to get going on with the city, and you got other things going. Like, how do you accomplish that? Is that the big?
It is, and we'll do.
And the relationships you have, obviously.
That's the biggest thing. And a lot of them are our former relationships. I've gone to Garland now for 30 years, and many of these cities change over time as citizens change.
Yeah.
And at any time you can call and ask me about cities, and we can put together a group of, often just with my employees, we've got somebody that worked there.
Right.
And all these cities have personalities, and what people want to know, they need to know what I call the holy trinity, kind of a zoning due diligence. How likely are you to win? How long will it take to win? How much will it cost to win? And I'm a lot better equipped, and my staff is, than developers. They don't do this every day.
So part of it is a developer comes, like, I want to do this year, and you might be able to say on the time being like, listen,
let's go to the next
tried to
city.
do this 3 different times over here. It's not going to happen.
Exactly
Trust me,
right.
save your money, save your time.
There are 2 good options in what we do. We win, the client loves to win, or what I call punt on second down. Before you spend a lot of money, the worst thing that can happen is a really long zoning case that you also don't win. This is one of the problems in Dallas right now is that even when you're successful there, their zoning cases take between 10 and 14 months. I can go to Plano and get an answer in 100 days. I can go to Grapevine and get an answer in 60 days. So, if it's fast, it's a lot easier to ask the question, and that's business friendly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with losing zoning cases.
Right.
The problem is when you lose a lot of money.
Is a zoning case typically it's a rezone from whatever it was before,
Right.
correct?
You're asking for change. And, there's two things people don't like. They don't like change, and they don't like the way things are. And
That's
it's
funny. And that's so true, though.
It
Oh my
is.
God.
And, the other joke in our office, we always talk about that, if we're doing a multifamily project or storage or whatever it is, you know where it should go? Somewhere else.
Yeah, not near me.
That's exactly right. So people people will go on vacation, embrace all kinds of change.
Yeah.
They'll try different food. They'll do a different hairstyle. Maybe not you, but a lot of people will, but they will try all kinds of different things when they travel. They come home and they only want to go to the same 5 restaurants.
Yeah.
That means, man, people don't want to do anything. And if you're not changing, you're kind of decaying. And you've seen this, like where we are, this part of North Dallas, Valley View, there are these areas that really need to improve because all that stuff's moved to West Plano. I mean, this tollway corridor in North Dallas was the gold mine. Yeah. Now it's moved north of Dallas.
Yes.
And that's why I'm opening an office in Frisco. It's why I opened in Fort Worth. And I didn't do it because I was smart. I did it because my clients wanted me to be in those locations. That's where they wanted to spend money.
And Dallas is crazy because, there's no barriers here. It's north, south, east, west, and in every single direction. It's funny because we're all human. We're all like this. But, I'm in real estate, so growth's great, right? We want it. Mm-hmm. But do I really want it in Argyle where I live? Because it used to be kind of a rural town, and now we're 5. I graduated 8th grade in Argyle, and I say graduated because they didn't have a high school. We had 65 kids in our school. Now they're a 5A school.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And yeah, do I really want a bunch of growth in Argyle where I live? Not as much as I'd rather it be somewhere else.
Somewhere else. That's always the answer. So
we're all hypocrites in that in some aspects.
Well, I'm not. I'm in favor.
You're not.
Things.
You're in. But you know what you're doing.
But I just think about this a lot, and I've just seen it a lot. And cities make mistakes when they pass up on things.
Yes.
Because saying no, it doesn't always come back.
Argyle is doing that right now.
Right. Well, that's always been a hard place to be, and they all want everybody to have a 1-acre lot and et cetera. I mean,
you can't stop the growth, though. It's coming.
It is. And I remember this was before the pandemic in East Dallas, and that's probably the toughest place to work in the Metroplex. I remember making the case about, in this great, there's so many people moving to Dallas, and it was an older audience. If you have a community meeting, they're going to mostly be people in their 60s and older. And they were like, no. They just immediately, it's like, hey, I'm pulling up the gangplank. I'm already aboard the ship. Everybody else.
Yeah, they walk in thinking you're bringing something that's going to ruin their world. Right.
I went to Waxahachie where I walked in, the crowd's super full, and this guy's like, this isn't going to be good for you. And I knew. I actually had multifamily zoning, and it was for Clint, our buddy.
Yeah.
And we were willing to do a seniors deal.
Yeah.
And they were stunned. Well, why are you doing this? I said, well, I need more seniors units to make it work, and I need more height. And it ended up working out fine. So a lot of times people are, they're fire, ready, aim. They don't do any aiming. They're already decided they're opposed before they even know what it is.
They get all ginned up before they even get there.
Absolutely. And the internet's bad for that, and we work at the tip of the spear at Masterplan.
Yeah,
it's not always a safe place to work.
No, I'm sure it's not.
Yeah. And like a football coach, if we lose, we get fired. Often.
Yeah,
which is not great.
Yeah, but I mean, if y'all lose a zoning case in Dallas, there's nobody behind you that's going to come in and win it.
No, sometimes you're just going to lose, and. I finished an article for the Morning News that's going to run on this Sunday, I would guess. And one of the problems is Dallas is sort of dysfunctional in that a very small number of voters have undue influence. I mean, the average age of people in the city of Dallas is in the 30s. The average voter age is in the late 60s. And so Dallas is planning its future for people that won't be alive. And
Yeah.
I think that's like a super absurd reality. I mean, I understand this is my last year as a prime worker. 25 to 54 is what the Bureau of Labor Statistics says.
Yeah.
Next year, I'm in that old group at 55 and over. I recognize retailers don't care about me. I mean, I'm not an important demographic, but my kids are. I watch very carefully what my
You
kids
would think
are
more
interested
people would
in.
think about their kids and like that, but I guess they don't.
They don't. I mean, and a lot of it is too. I try to do most of my decision making, make it all rational. I see a lot of neighbors, they do it all emotional.
Right.
And they can't, they have a hard time thinking rationally about these things because it's, I think owning their home, and maybe real estate people are less likely to do this, they feel that owning a home is an emotional thing. I feel like owning my home is still just a real estate decision.
Yeah. Totally.
So I think some of it is,
I mean, they're not going to bury you in your home.
I hope not.
Yeah.
It's an asset
Yeah.
and an important one.
Yeah. But it'll move on.
And somebody else will
us.
be there and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way these, I mean, it's, I like this across the country that, you work with these cities to get these things done and, not don't want to put you all out of a business, but would there be a better way to do this than the way they do it? Because it seems like it's so dysfunctional from the standpoint that these people that are in power in these cities, I mean, what, 1% of them have been in the real estate business? 'Cause
Yeah.
if you've been in the real estate business, the last place you want to go do is go run for office, I'm sure, unless you're the Huffines.
I've never it's funny that people think real estate is like an easy discipline because they own a home or they've been kind of on the outsides of
There's
it.
some macro view of it.
Yeah, they just think, it's not that hard. And they're like, developers. They don't understand all the things developers do. I mean, they have to raise the capital.
complex.
It's very complicated
And risky.
and very risky. And so, and cities don't know much about it either. One of the real problems I have is and I see this with some of our employees is they are very narrowly educated instead of broadly educated. Like Stanley Marcus always said, I can teach somebody about Neiman's. I can't teach them how to think. So he really liked liberal arts people. I do
Right.
too.
Part of it also is like people forget that everywhere they are, where we are right now, where we live, where we eat, everywhere we go was developed.
Right.
Like you wouldn't, otherwise we'd all be standing in pastures.
Yeah, we'd be down there waiting at John Neely Bryan's cabin downtown.
So it's an important deal. And
It is, but you get these cities with a lot of the same people that are educated almost like it's a trade.
Right.
And so like I have to reprogram a lot of my planners because they didn't take economics classes, they don't know about real estate, so they may have worked at a city for 15 years and become a director, but they don't know much about real estate.
Right.
So they got to come in and re-educate and realize they don't even know what they don't know, and then they start bringing that on. But cities do things in a non-business manner. I wish more cities would be thinking about things from a business perspective. I mean, cities are still pursuing the almighty sales tax dollar, which is crazy in the Metroplex. That's 1 cent. If you're a Dart city, it's 2 cents otherwise. That doesn't get you that far. And if you think of like, I don't know, Walmart or Target or any of the retailers, per acre, that doesn't do very good. I mean, you're just not going to do that much sales tax. I mean, but a storage cube, a dense multifamily thing, that's where cities build tax base, but neighbors don't like that. So people make lots of irrational decisions about things, and they operate on, they complain. You show up at a neighborhood meeting, they're going to complain about traffic. I just know they're going to.
Yeah.
Well, you live in what's soon going to be the third largest metropolitan area. And I will usually now push back and tell them, when you go out to eat on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, do you just think, man, I'm just going to walk into Javier's or wherever I want to go and be seated? No, you get a reservation ahead of time.
Yeah.
Traffic's kind of like that. You don't want to be in traffic? Come and go early or stay late. That's part of being in this very prosperous region of you're going to have to deal with some of these issues.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to make the choices. You know,
do have to
we
make the
choose to live in
choices.
Argyle, but that means I choose to drive a little bit more. But
That's right.
it's a little quieter when I get home.
Yep.
But that works for me. But that's not going to work for everyone else.
It doesn't. And I live in Park Cities, and it's not as quiet, but I don't have a long commute.
Right. Yeah. Everything you need's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's real estate's so funny, and people are so funny, and it's all so intertwined.
We joke. This is what my dad's joke is that we invite, we have a neighborhood meeting, we invite property owners to meeting, and we're always disappointed that people show up.
Well, the people that show up usually aren't there to cheer you on.
They're also often not there to listen or be thoughtful that other people might have good ideas. I mean, because we try to start by listening. Like at the early meetings, I want to know what they think about their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now, those are not always accurate. People say things all the time like, we eat out a lot. Well, not compared to neighborhoods that eat out a lot, or
Yeah.
we spend a lot. Well, that's not what the demographics show. You are, I'd say you are your supermarket. If you have a Whole Foods or a fancy one, that means people are buying expensive groceries. When you don't, it means you aren't.
Yeah.
And that's not, I'm not picking on anything. That's just how it is. I mean, people, I know people want to have a nice grocery store and they want more sit-down dining. Well, then you need to spend money at a grocery store and go out to eat a lot, and then you will have those things.
Then the grocery store will find you.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. These HEBs are going in everywhere
I know.
around here now. That's one thing I hear people excited about is HEB.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
People are excited about that and Buc-ee's. I don't know what else they're excited about.
Well, at least at Buc-ee's you can always find a gas pump.
You can.
For now.
And a clean bathroom.
Yeah. So let's. I'm curious about the column.
Okay.
And you said you had one coming out. What was the one you said is coming out this Sunday?
I got one on Sunday about Dallas is looking at a code amendment that might allow in any single family district that you could add duplex or a triplex or a quadplex right in the
Oh, I
middle
was
of a
reading
neighborhood.
that. Was that the multifamily everywhere
Yeah,
without
I'm
zoning?
doing kind of a follow-up piece on that on Sunday.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. I
yeah.
mean, just even by City of Dallas standards, it's a terrible idea. I mean, if Dallas wants, and this is sort of what I talk about.
It seems like, well, the only way we can say no to apartments is to offer some crazy scheme
But
like this. It
why
doesn't
would
work.
you risk the intact
Talk about pissing
single-family
off your
neighborhoods?
neighborhoods.
Should be respected. What they should stop doing, though, is listening to the people in those neighborhoods on the outskirts, like over here on Harvest Hill. There's that old office park right here behind us. That should be torn down and do a mid-rise or a high-rise building there. That'd be a good multifamily site.
Yeah.
So what they need to tell homeowners is, and this requires leadership, which leadership means telling people when they're wrong. Hey, respectfully, we can't go on that way. We did for a long time, but they need to put density outside those neighborhoods. And okay, it may generate a little more traffic, but it will generate more jobs. It'll generate more tax base, and we need people here. Dallas somehow, during a period of unparalleled prosperity over the last 10 years, lost 100,000 residents.
I couldn't believe that when I read that. That
100,000.
Dallas, of all the growth there, Dallas lost
And
residents.
the most shocking part is Dallas is losing kids 6 and under. So parents with young children are fleeing in a record number from the city of Dallas to suburban communities. So if you think Dallas...
And that's being driven by probably multiple things. Schools, I would assume, would be
crime,
one.
schools, high tax. At least I argue all the time that Dallas has the highest taxes, or some of the highest taxes in the region, and they deliver the lowest services.
Right.
That's not a great combination. I mean, one reason I choose to live in University Park is it has one of the lowest tax rates in the state, really, but in the region, and they deliver exemplary services. Now, they don't have as many of them, but the ones they have,
you feel like you get something for what you're paying for.
I want clean water. I want my trash picked up. I don't want the city to flood. I want basic city services.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it'd be easier to accept a tax bill if you saw something being done with it that.
Yes.
Versus
So,
leaving the country or the state.
I'm not an expert on why all these people moved and why they take their families, but yes, I think that these are all decisions people are making, and part of it is Dallas is not affordable. Now, it's kind of shocking that like it's not until after the pandemic that people have started to wake up and say, well, Dallas is not a low-cost city. I would say that happened like 2010, 2012, somewhere. I mean, like you're just late getting this information. People in real estate obviously started seeing this. I remember when we first started seeing pricing in Uptown get $100 a foot.
Yeah.
You know, I was really aware that things are changing.
Yeah.
And now they're $400 or $500 a foot. So if you're going to be in the now the fourth largest metropolitan area, you shouldn't expect that you're going to have, you know, the pricing that you have in Hearn, Texas, or, you know, in Kilgore.
And rooting for downtown, totally. But like, I mean, between the two, I mean, Uptown's safer and nicer. And hopefully they're going to fix that down there because
it's hard, you know, and I office downtown in the East Quarter, and I root for it. And we have officed in downtown Dallas since, I think,
I like that new East Quarter that they've got down there.
In
Todd interest.
82 or 83, we moved downtown. We've been there ever since. I think downtown Dallas Inc.'s doing a great job, and there's more people living there.
We got good Pete. Mike Hoke down there is doing good. They got Todd interest. They're doing good stuff down there, and others.
You just also have these huge buildings that you know may go back to the lender, and they're too big. I mean, they're too big to be office. They're too big to be converted to just multifamily. And it requires so much investment from the city. You know, I believe you're going to see, like today, there's an article in the paper today. Steve Brown did another good column about JLB's doing you know, tearing down an old office, and they're going to do, you know, multifamily in Irving. I think, and I'm hosting on the 30th, I'm hosting a office conversion kind of conference in the morning.
Nice.
If people want to come. I think you're going to see a lot more of that where older office buildings in suburban communities that are 2 or 3 stories or 1 story go away and are replaced by something that's more meaningful.
The basis
today.
just has to get low enough for that to be able to pencil out,
and,
for sure.
And they're already fully, I made the comment, I think, in an article, and I thought it was clever. They're fully depreciated and appreciated buildings. These are not office buildings with a lot of hope.
Yeah.
And so those need to be repurposed.
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's good real estate.
repurposing is like wrecking ball repurposing. So
for sure.
Getting back to, you know, the morning news columns, I really there's a great book called Bird by Bird that is about writing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they made the comment, and I asked, you know, the editor of the opinion page, Rudy Bush, I first met him when he covered City Hall 20 years ago.
So did he just approach you one day and ask you?
Yeah, they had this idea about having contributing columnists that are people from the community. They're already writing, and like Talmadge Boston's a great writer, and Abby's really good, and Rob Curran. I mean, I knew some of these people or knew their work.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was like super flattered that my hometown paper thought I had something to say, and a little worried, like, do I? And my buddies were like, you got a lot of hot opinions, and it is the opinion page.
Yeah, and they're entertaining opinions.
So they have a fairly agnostic view about what we all write. I mean, I write mostly about City Hall and real estate, but I also have done features on sports.
Yeah. Shouldn't that be the view, to let somebody write their?
I think that's what they want to do. Is that look? People don't like facts; they like stories. One of the best stories I wrote last year, I thought that maybe the one that made me feel the best was about a guy named Mike Tanko. So Mike Tanko is the greatest basketball referee in the state of Texas history.
How do you rank that?
He just was a great game caller. He called Georgetown Phi Slamma Janima NCAA finals.
Wow.
And referees believe Tanko was the best referee. He refereed me in college.
No kidding.
When I was a kid growing up, and the Southwest Conference was on Saturdays.
Yeah.
You'd be Hoffein's Pavilion, and then the next week they're at Baylor watching Terry Teagle. Every week he was on TV. He did the big game because he could control it. And so Mike Tanko's a regular guy. He's a retired DISD school teacher. He's a widower. He lives in Oak Cliff, and he's just a really nice older guy. And and a buddy of mine who lives in Oklahoma had said, you ought to do something on Tanko. He deserves it. And I made the comment, I think my lead was, in Texas, normally when you're the best at something, you're the Von Erichs or Van Cliburns, and everybody knows you.
Yeah.
And Mike is the best at being a referee.
But people just don't know the referees.
They didn't know
do
it,
they?
and that got a lot of good reads. And it's not about being a sports fan, but I wanted to realize, and I refereed 20 years, nearly 20 years of college basketball, and I have met some great people. These are people that have, they work their day job, they go and do these games.
It's a tough, thankless job.
It's not a
Gotta
job.
be.
You do it because you love it.
Yeah, you have to, because you're usually not getting cheered on.
That's
out there.
right. And it's one of the things that you get in the car afterwards and you grade your own paper.
Yeah.
I didn't let the coaches grade my paper, and I sure as hell didn't let the players.
They're probably biased.
They are all super biased. But anyway, I mean, I think that's a good example of what the Morning News is trying to do with these contributing columnists. Is we're trying to tell stories about the communities we live in, and I thought Mike was a wonderful example of, Dallas is full of these small heroes, and that we should all celebrate.
No, that's really neat. And I've told you this before, and maybe it was in the last couple of election cycles that Dallas is kind of getting labeled as like this, liberal lefty paper, and Dallas has gotten a little more liberal lefty, but I don't, compared to some of these other papers, I think it's a pretty darn good paper, and they don't seem to be too slanted.
I would say that's really right, and certainly the editorial board doesn't. They look at issues, they ask important questions. They do timely stuff. I mean, I didn't have anything to do with this, but the opinions page people did some great work on Central America recently. If you haven't read those, I mean, it made me feel so stupid. But that's what a good paper does, is it educates us about what we don't know, and then also explains that you should know this, and it's important for you to know this. But
I agree, it should educate us in down the center so we can come to our own conclusions.
That's right.
But
I grew up in this town when it was a two-page paper town. We took both the Herald and the Morning News.
I remember the Herald.
And I don't think that the Dallas Morning News is a liberal paper. I think that the Dallas Morning News is a paper that covers the community that they live in. Mm-hmm. And Dallas County, the last time Dallas County voted for a Republican was Dewhurst in 2010.
Yeah.
So what you have to really think is that Dallas County is becoming more liberal, and of course the people that live here are, and so
it's
that's
just
not,
like Harris and
that's
Travis
right, and that's
all
maybe not
ones,
true of newspaper readers, because my wife teases me that my best audience is women over 70 that go to my church. Well, they read the paper, and they usually read it before they go to church on Sunday. God bless them. I appreciate that. But
and you said Dallas Morning News is the 15th largest paper?
I think it's in circulation. Yeah, it's one of the biggest papers in the country. I mean, and I kind of worry about it, to be honest. I mean, I do think that it is real. The Fourth Estate is really important in covering these things. And, the Star Telegram's down to 20 or so reporters compared to the Dallas is 150. So,
wow.
Dallas still really covers
Fort Worth's
things.
the fastest growing
I know
city,
it is,
big city, and it used to be a really good paper back in the day.
I totally agree. We had three good papers in the region when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It's changed, and I know people don't spend a lot of time thinking about the paper, and I probably do more, but I've always subscribed. I take the paper, and I read it every day, and I read the actual,
the inside more than the headlines.
I mean, I bend the whole thing open and try and look at the parts I, am interested in or think I ought to know about. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to write things that are interesting to me. Some of them are political pieces. I don't spend much time on national things. I wrote a couple of things.
Tell me about, you mentioned it before, you wrote this thing on Saban.
Yeah.
And the
football, what I called the football industrial complex.
I define that. I thought that was interesting. And obviously this is big news with Saban and everything he did and retiring and whatnot.
Well, this is kind of what they do. Occasionally they'll call or send me an email and give me what they call a prompt, like, you want to do something on this? And I was like, yeah. I mean, and I had done some sports-ish pieces. And I try to do, if I'm not going to write sports about, I try to make it for not sports fans about like, how does this impact us?
Yeah.
And, with Saban retiring, I looked at it like that it was sort of a real estate project. What did Nick Saban mean to Tuscaloosa County? And, I did a bunch of investigating and research about the gross national product of Alabama football. And, is he completely responsible for all the growth they've had? But that county has outgrown Alabama and all the typical growth in those counties and most American counties. So, there is such a thing. And I posed the question kind of to myself. And, remember, I was a college professor and a poorly paid one, like all the others. And, I posed the question to myself, how can someone at the same time be both overpaid and underpaid? Well, of course, it's ridiculous that you have these football coaches now making, I think, $11 million with his bonuses last year. But
Right.
you know what? For what he did for that economy, totally worth it.
Well, yeah, I can't even imagine what the percentage of what they paid him versus if you could tie in
But
the
what
economics he brought
but
in
what,
with that.
why I
program.
came up with that term. So, last week was the anniversary of the Eisenhower military-industrial complex when he was,
Everybody should listen to that speech.
Totally agree. And I think we're at sort of a tipping point with college sports, period, with the NIL. I'm not nearly as big a fan. It's like free agency every year. The players leave, the coaches leave, and like the old Seinfeld joke. You just root for the laundry. I'm a TCU guy, so I'm rooting for the TCU laundry. And I think it's a problem. I think this is a real problem. And how many schools? I mean, how can TCU and SMU compete, in this military-industrial complex without those same sorts of resources? Or North Texas, or Texas State. So you're going to have some haves, and I think a lot of have-nots.
Well, and in these conferences, they're so lopsided. You could have somebody that wins, out west, but the 4th or 5th place team in the SEC could clobber them if they played. In theory,
I mean,
I don't know how you manage all that.
I just was happy that I've had a bunch of people reach out and be, that they like the piece. They just enjoyed the piece. I mean, that's what the opinion page is about. And I know there are people that don't like what I write at all, and I think that's totally okay. I always invite them. You should write your own piece.
Yeah.
We love op-ed. Just submit an op-ed piece. Tell me, how full of it I am. Because all I'm sharing is my idea. I leave room for that I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but I try to, come up with, facts. I got another piece that's going to come out probably February about I'm very concerned that America is losing its Puritan work ethic, that city on a hill. And if we don't work hard, we're going to end up with results like France or something.
Like all these young
I don't
young
think it's
people
just
putting
young
these.
people.
Well, but you see these TikTok things that come out. These kids, it's so funny because like, I mean, do you think your employer's not going to see your video that you just posted about how working from 9 to 5 is just? I mean, how am I going to get anything done?
Remember our generation, at least mine, I'm a Gen X guy. I mean, we were the slacker generation. The thought was we're never going to amount to much. And,
we're the entitled generation. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I think entitlement is an issue. But this is an issue. There are millions of Americans that are not working at every age group. I mean, there are like 12 million people that haven't looked for work in the last 3 years. So there's just a lot of people that are not working. So I don't know. These are things, I mean, some of this is people like you that run businesses. Just these are the conversations I'm having. I'm tickled, like whether it's this or, I'm writing a column for the morning news. I'm just trying to bird by bird, talk about what I'm seeing. And I will say writing these articles makes me a lot more aware of news I'm processing. Like today, the top of above the fold front page was about the border crisis. And I immediately, because I am a historian by training, made a connection between, a good story would be Sam Houston in 1860 before the Civil War and what Abbott is doing. And I don't know, I may or may not write it, but I would not have seen that same connection 2 or 3 years ago if I wasn't writing these articles. And it makes me a better business person. My kids have suggested topics.
Yeah.
I was opining about the speaker crisis in Washington, and one of my
Oh my
kids
God,
said,
yeah.
That's an article, Dad, and I wrote it that night. I'm like, good. So,
So how long in front of your articles do you start working on them? Does it just depend?
it depends. Sometimes I can write one, and like the best one I ever did, and I'd been thinking about it in my head. I did one at the end of 22 that had a crazy number of clicks. Don't California my Texas, and
Yes,
I
that
use
was a
that
good
term
one.
California. I wrote it in 38 minutes.
Yeah.
But I knew what I wanted to say, and I knew I had a good intro. I mean, usually that's what I try and do is I go out and walk and I try and think about what's my intro. That's how I thought about
Yeah.
the Saban thing. And somehow I made a connection between what that is and the Eisenhower thing. And so with that piece, I knew I started with, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, or maybe the most famous lines in the English language. In Texas, it was McMurtry's, I wouldn't trust a man that drove across the state 1,500 miles and didn't have a chicken fried steak. And I make the point that chicken fried steak is under assault. Remember growing up here, you can find chicken fried
Everywhere.
steak everywhere. Now it's an endangered species.
It is.
So, that's what I'm concerned about Texas. I'm going to, I told you I'm going to speak to the TEA
Yeah.
of the 1836 project about Texas because, I'm not practicing Texas history the way I did when I was a professor.
Is that what you taught?
Yeah, I'm a 19th century American historian by training.
I love it.
And my fields are Jacksonian and the Civil War in Texas. That's what I taught in the University of Texas system at UT Tyler. I'm a very non-traditional business guy.
Yeah.
But I would say the skills of the historian are really good for business because it's
History's
about
huge
It's
for
about
it,
making connections between things. It's about remembering things and analyzing stuff, and that's what business is, and that's a lot of what real estate is. Understanding these trends. Why is it significant? And hopefully seeing over the horizon. I mean, we talk in the office a lot about master plan, that good planning is like driving. And I think developers are really good at that, is that, you're looking out, I'm driving and I'm looking out over the horizon of what's coming. That's not how cities drive. You know how cities drive? Cities drive exclusively looking at the rearview mirror about what has happened in the past. And they're solving for things that have already happened. I dare you to drive home to Argyle today only looking at the rearview mirror. I don't think it's going to happen. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And I think my background as a historian, the past informs the present and the future.
Yeah. One of your articles and I'm a big history nerd as well, and I'm for whatever reason growing up, I latched on to Roman history. I just find it so fascinating what they did and what they built and how they lived back then. But I was reading your article on the Napoleon Bonaparte.
Oh, yeah.
And good article, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you see the movie?
I have seen it now, yeah.
I saw it as well.
It's too long. It's still good.
It was good, but one of the things I didn't know, you mentioned in there that Ridley Scott plans on releasing an even longer version of it because, there's a lot to cover when you're talking about Napoleon.
And I think there's an amazing amount.
And to your point, most people only think of as little Napoleon syndrome and
he was actually taller than his average soldiers.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah,
the Frenchman of the era was not very big.
Yeah.
Whereas the Prussian was.
Yeah, he's known for that and losing in Waterloo. But
Yeah,
he was.
But he rarely
he
lost.
Was incredible.
That I tell you what. So when I
he's almost looked at as like a negative almost, and I don't really think he was.
No, he was a great organizer.
Yeah.
He worked great under crisis. I mean, that's the hardest article I did last year.
That was hard
because they gave me 700 words.
Yeah.
To cover Napoleon.
Did they ask you to write that one?
Yeah, that was one. Well, the movie's coming out, and that's one they kind of had a prompt for. Like, does somebody want this? And it's a group of talented people. I love getting together with the other people, and like this weekend, Abby had a great article about Texas and the time she worked with Perry. Everybody should go back. The weekend before, Rob Curran did a really amazing article about AI, and I tell you, people are these are it should be must read on Sundays, and it's a wide range of topics. and they'll just send out something like Talmadge Boston did a great piece about Carter recently. As president, he's done several presidential history books.
Jimmy Carter?
Jimmy
Oh, really?
Carter. And so, I get up on Sundays and like, what do my buddies write today?
Yeah.
And it's fun. Look, being on a team, I think people work better as teams. Business is a team sport.
Agreed.
People that think that they can work at home and supervise themselves and critique themselves are wrong. We don't.
100%.
Usually the people who say that aren't experienced enough to know what it's supposed to look like.
I know for a fact I can't work from home. I can't get anything done. I mean,
no, I am much more productive at the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you like that Napoleon piece. I mean, he's a fascinating person.
Yes.
And you're right. I think that's one of the things people think of him as a failure, and he failed so relatively few times at anything he did. I mean, he founded some of the best schools that are still in existence.
You made a great point about the Louisiana Purchase, how people look at him like for a moron for doing that. But
he couldn't do anything. He didn't have the resources to do anything with it, and he needed the money. I mean, that's just a practical business decision.
Yeah,
people
it's a
do that
world
all
away.
the time.
Yeah, a big swamp and forest, and
Yeah,
and it worked out great for us too.
it did work out rather well.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing that we did as a country was Louisiana Purchase of controlling the Mississippi River and that basin. That's our lifeblood. That
It is.
people don't
Still
realize
is.
how important the Mississippi River is and that whole river system. It's incredible. Well, I hope people read more of the paper. I know I'm going to.
I hope so too. I mean, we sure don't want to get to where we don't have a newspaper in this market, and cities that don't have it, it's important, and the work that the people are doing for the morning news is important. I mean, I think like the watchdog columns; I've read that for years, and it's saved me money and made me more aware of things. I mean, I think people sort of like treat it like electricity. They don't think much about it. They expect it to work, but if it weren't here, they would complain and they would miss it a lot.
Yeah.
And which means people
balanced,
need to buy it.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty balanced paper. And go try to find any news organization that has much balance to it out there. They're all in the tank for something.
It certainly still has one of the country's finest sports pages. It's great.
It's news is a tough business, I think, these days. People have a hard time trusting what they're reading, and hopefully that changes. Hopefully we get to. I think at one time we felt like the news is a little more. Here's the information, process it, how you see fit. Now it's more like, here it is.
Well, I think people.
If you don't believe it, then you're X, Y, or Z.
I think people are very selectively cherry picking their facts.
Yeah.
And you see this, like I get onto the Dallas City staff in my article on Sunday because I would say that's exactly what they're doing on things is that I think they're the referees. That's what I think city staff members is they are the referees, and they're acting like either they're the coach or the players, and they are just give the council the facts and let them decide. That's what elected officials are for.
Right.
So, I got strong opinions on what I think good municipal government is. And unfortunately, people spend a lot of time thinking about federal government when it's your local government that impacts your life the most.
And that's where they don't vote at all.
They don't. But I tell you what, I get up every morning and brush my teeth. Sure am glad that water works. I throw my garbage away. I mean, that's all local. I drive on local streets. I mean, most of my life seems to be taken care of by local government.
Yes, you need to vote, people. Before we finish up, this on the real estate economy, it's a big topic in both of our worlds. What's your feelings? You think 24 is a better or worse year than 23? It's going to be a weird year. The last two elections have been nuts. I can't even imagine what the rest of this year is going to be like. But are you bullish on real estate in any areas or any ways?
I'm certainly more bullish on Dallas and Texas real estate than other places. Sure. I mean, now, Masterplan for about the last dozen years we're one of the 550 federal 11th Federal Reserve District reporting entities. So every month, I'm one of those people that the Federal Reserve surveys. And if you're not looking at all the surveys,
When you say that, like they call you and ask you questions?
It's online.
Okay.
It's all done online. But
Okay.
they, like they ask specific questions based on what's going on, maybe about the interest rates, or during the pandemic, they ask about that, supply shortages, labor shortages. So, the questions vary from month to month, but a lot of them are as simple as, are you making capital expenditures this month? Do you plan to in 6 months? And how do you feel about the economy? I think they like that master plan is we're real upstream in the real estate game, whereas you're at the back, you're, later than we are.
Yeah.
And
You've done all your work on the project by the time we're doing
right,
it. Well, we're
like,
doing anything
when
with
people are like, say, oh, I saw those cranes. Yeah, we did that work like 3 years ago. So yes, I think it's going to be better than 23. I think 25 is going to be a good year. And, last year I started hearing all these young brokers talking about survive till 25, which I think is probably a pretty good term.
Kind of cute, but almost kind of makes me want to punch people when they say I've heard it so many times now.
But for these guys, I think these younger guys, they didn't do Great Recession, and they didn't really do the pandemic.
Yeah.
And
I got in the business at the start of the recession.
Yeah,
so
it's
a great way to start. You don't know it at the and
I've
it sure
been
makes
either
you feel
the
better.
president or the CEO of Masterplan. I took over about a year before the Great Recession. And Carl Crawley, who's been at Masterplan with me for 25 plus years, I mean, we feel pretty good that, and we told our staff this at the beginning of the year, that, look, we did the Great Recession and we did the pandemic. Whatever this is, we can find our way through it.
100%. That's a good point.
And, the phone's starting to ring some, or emails. I think there's some people that are just like, I have to do something. They're like a shark. If they don't swim, they're going to die.
Yeah.
And and there's opportunity out there. I mean, I am concerned. I wish there was more multifamily. I mean, it's not a feast, but it's not a famine yet either. I mean, I think we'll know by late spring or early summer how the year is going to look. And then you're going to have the election. Unfortunately, it's going to slow things down again. So, I think it's kind of like last year. I mean, but that being said, in our 42 years of business, we had our fourth best year ever last year. Now, we had to work hard for it.
Yes, it was definitely a work harder, make a little less.
That's right.
It was for us.
And I think that's what we're going to have to do this year is really grind, maybe be, and I would probably be more worried, but we're not just doing Dallas or even Texas projects now. We're doing stuff all over, and there is opportunity. A lot of electric vehicle charging. I mean, we're trying to find what that next wave is and get on it as it's coming in.
It is. Well, I can tell you that the last quarter of 22 and January of 23 versus the last quarter of 23 and this month, we have about triple the amount of new orders, which is new real estate deals,
great,
than we did. That's encouraging. Now, in last quarter 22 and January 23 were bottom of the barrel months.
Yeah.
But it's good to see, the activity up and people, moving the puzzle pieces around and getting things done. So,
I think people
deals are
realize,
smaller. Some of
there's
the big deals, those are few and far between right now.
No such thing as small deals, only small minds.
We'll take every deal.
Totally, us too.
You got to do.
I mean,
we like them.
My favorite master plan story is that we did a tax abatement for Ray Hunt on the Hunt headquarters building on Woodall Rogers, and that day, as you would expect if you know him, we had a client for a woman that owns a tow truck company. She's a good operator. That's who Masterplan's clients are. We have some of the best known people in real estate and some that no one knows. I will say to his credit, he stayed until her case was done, treated her just like a business person because she is. That's kind of one of my, it's kind of a favorite day. I look back on that's who we represent. Is we might be doing the biggest deal, maybe in the city, but I tell you, every client we represent it's their biggest thing going on in their life typically.
100%.
And that's true. We bought the LaBarba family's alcohol permitting business, which is now, I guess it's 59th year. So the two companies are over 100 years old.
That's awesome.
My goal was just to not mess it up.
Yeah.
And run that relay race and hand off to someone at some point in the future. But LaBarba's clients are still the bar and restaurant owner themselves. Love these guys and gals. I mean, because they're there in the trenches. I mean, they're doing it all.
Yeah.
And it's still really fun to work with actual operators of businesses. I mean, it's not
and help them
theoretical
achieve
for
their
them.
goals. Yeah.
Totally agree. Got to get them open on time, know? Yeah.
Big time stuff.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I hope you come back. I'd love to have you
I'd
on
love
again.
to.
Yeah, we could go forever.
Yep.
It's
Sounds
good stuff.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dallas.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, that ends us for today. We will see you next time. This has been the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again.